We are going to be working with a variety of join commands so that we can retrieve data from multiple related tables. And I've already launched SSMS and selected new query. And so now I'm just going to put a little comment up at the top with my name and task number 1. So the scenario is our boss would like to see the names of the vendors we need to pay. So they would like us to display the invoice number and the vendor name in a little report for vendors whose balance is greater than 0. The data that we need to display, which is invoice number and vendor name, is in 2 different tables in the AP database. And in order to display data from 2 different tables, they need to have a column in common. And typically what you will find is that the primary key of one of the tables has been added to the related table. So in this case, vendor ID, which is the primary key in the vendor table, has been added to the invoices table. And that becomes what's called a foreign key. So we will be able to access the information the boss wants because we have that vendor ID field in common. So the first thing we're going to do for this little query is indicate what database we're going to use. Then we're going to use our select statement. And we're going to tell it we want invoice number, which we are getting from our invoices table. And we also want vendor name, which we're getting from down here in the vendors table. Now at this point, they're both going to have little red squiggles underneath because we haven't indicated what tables we are using. So we're going to say from vendors, and that should get rid of the squiggle under vendor name. And then in order to display invoice number, we have to do a join. And the most common type of join is an inner join. In fact, it's so common, you don't even have to put the word inner into your query. You can just enter join, and it assumes that you're doing an inner join. So we're going to join our vendors table with our invoices table. Okay, so now we've told it both tables that we're going to use. And what we still need to tell it is how we are connecting those 2 tables. And we are connecting on that primary key, foreign key relationship. So we have to use the on clause. And you'll notice that the column name is the same. Now, it doesn't have to be the same, but quite often it is. So what we have to do is tell SSMS and SQL Server the table name, a dot, and then the column name. And we have to prefix column name with table name because these 2 columns are named the same. So we're going to say vendors dot vendor ID is equal to invoices dot vendor ID. wherever that is. Okay, so that is how we are joining the tables. So with a inner join, it's only going to show us the invoices for vendors that have invoices. So if a vendor doesn't have an invoice, we aren't going to see it. And if there's an invoice that is missing a vendor, we aren't going to see that either. So basically it matches those two up and it only retrieves the rows where we have a vendor and an invoice. Now, if I run it like this, I'm going to get quite a few results that basically have a balance of 0. And that is not what the boss wants. The boss wants a balance greater than 0. So I have to add a where clause to this. Okay, and so where is the balance located? Well, that is in the invoices table. And it is a calculation. It is the invoice total minus the payment total, which is the amount they've paid so far, minus the credit total. Okay, and a credit would reduce their invoice total. Okay, so when you get done subtracting out the payment total and the credit total, you have the remaining amount that is owed. So we are going to say invoice total minus payment total minus credit total. Okay, so that the result of that calculation has to be greater than 0. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and execute. And you can see we have quite a few fewer results. Okay, so that is exactly what the boss wants. So we're going to go ahead and save our query. And I'm going to navigate up here to Documents and open up CIT 178. And I am going to call this Chapter 4, Textbook Assignment. And since we are done with this task, I'm going to take the closing comment and I'm just going to move it to the end of the query, and that'll comment it out.